The FBI asked neighbors for security footage from January 11th, not February. Not the week Nancy Guthrie disappeared, January 11th, 3 weeks before the abduction. Why that date? That question now has a partial answer, and it came from a neighbor who has lived in the Catalina Foothills for nearly 30 years. Here is what is confirmed. Aldine Meister, a resident of the same neighborhood, told Fox News Digital and NewsNation anchor Brian Entin that she saw a suspicious man outside Nancy Guthrie's home on approximately January 11th. She knows the date because her birthday is January 8th. The sighting was 3 days after her birthday. She has no reason to confuse the timeline. The FBI has since asked neighbors for security footage specifically from that date, confirming that January 11th is an active investigative target, not a peripheral detail. The FBI does not request footage from specific dates without a specific reason. That reason has not been disclosed publicly. That is the official picture. A date. A man. A window. Now the witness account begins to speak. Meister was inside her home, getting ready in the morning, looking out from her bathroom window. That detail matters. A bathroom window in the morning is not a vantage point someone chooses. It is incidental. It is the kind of observation that carries weight precisely because it was not planned. She was not watching the street. She happened to see what was there. What she saw was a young man walking slowly down the street below Nancy Guthrie's house. He was not dressed for hiking. He was not jogging. He was dressed in regular street clothes. The wrong outfit for the Catalina Foothills, where people walking in the morning are typically in athletic wear. His hat was pulled low. He was hunched. He was moving slowly. And he was looking at Nancy Guthrie's house, not past it, at it. That sustained attention, a slow walk, a hat pulled low, a deliberate look at one specific property, is the behavioral signature of someone building a mental map of the target location. Entrances, exit routes, sight lines from neighboring windows, the time it takes someone to respond to a knock at the door. That is not theory. That is confirmed forensic data. But suspicion alone proves nothing. What the evidence shows is a man who did not belong in that visual environment on that morning, behaving in a way consistent with pre-surveillance of a specific property. What it does not yet show is whether this is the same individual captured in the Nest camera footage at that door on 2 separate visits, or someone working in coordination with that person. Gone is the theory that no one saw anything. Gone is the assumption that this neighborhood was unobserved before February 1st. Why did Meister go to authorities, and what did the FBI do with what she told them? She reported her sighting to the Pima County Sheriff after Nancy Guthrie was reported missing. That matters. She did not call police in January when she saw the man. She called after the abduction. That is a normal civilian response. But the FBI's reaction to her account was not routine. They did not log her report and move on. They identified a specific date, January 11th, and began requesting security camera footage from multiple neighbors for that morning. That is a targeted investigative action. That is confirmation that the FBI believes something happened on that specific morning that is worth investigating forensically. What does an 8-word description actually tell investigators? Meister described the man in 8 words. Strange guy with his hat down really low. Those 8 words are operationally specific. Hat down low means deliberate obscuring of the face. Deliberate face obscuring in the context of a slow walk past a specific residence 3 weeks before that resident is abducted is a behavioral pattern that FBI profilers document under a specific classification. It is consistent with pre-attack surveillance. It is consistent with a subject who knew that cameras and witnesses exist and was attempting to limit facial exposure. Meister also told Entin that the man took a long look at the street, a phrase that, in witness testimony, indicates sustained directional attention rather than a casual glance. You notice a long look because it is different from what people normally do when they walk past a house. Is that the same face, partially hidden under a hat, that appears in the Nest camera images 2 or 3 weeks later? Weeks. That comparison has not been made public. Verification needed on whether Meister has been shown the Nest camera footage. Fox News Digital confirmed her account. Neither Fox News nor NewsNation has reported whether investigators asked her to compare her January sighting to the images already in evidence. Meister also described what she characterized as a series of suspicious incidents in the neighborhood in the weeks before Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. That detail, multiple events, not a single sighting, suggests that whoever conducted surveillance was not working from one visit. It suggests familiarity built over time. The specific nature of those prior incidents has not been confirmed by any Tier 1 source. That detail remains unverified at the Tier 1 level. Here is what is confirmed. Aldine Meister reported her sighting to authorities after the disappearance. The FBI targeted January 11th. A named, credentialed civilian eyewitness has placed a suspicious individual outside Nancy Guthrie's home 3 weeks before the abduction. The sequence, account, then FBI date-specific footage request, is not procedural noise. It is the FBI telling the public, through their investigative actions, that they believe something happened on that morning. And this is where the case begins to tighten. The January 11th sighting does not exist in isolation. It sits inside a documented timeline that includes a first Nest camera visit with no backpack, a second Nest camera visit with a backpack and a walkie-talkie, and an abduction on February 1st. If January 11th is the date of the first Nest camera visit, investigators have a potential witness to that surveillance approach who did not know what she was watching at the time. If January 11th precedes both Nest camera visits, it expands the reconnaissance window further, placing a suspicious individual in that neighborhood even earlier than the footage already confirms. In either case, the reconnaissance footprint is larger than the Nest footage alone suggested. One camera, one door. That was the documented perimeter of pre-attack surveillance until Aldine Meister spoke to Brian Entin. Which scenario does the FBI currently believe? That answer has not been confirmed publicly. Verification needed on whether January 11th corresponds to either of the two Nest camera dates already in evidence. The FBI has the footage. The FBI has Meister's account. Whether those two pieces of evidence describe the same morning has not been officially confirmed by any official source. Here is what is confirmed. Day 38 of the Nancy Guthrie investigation. A named eyewitness has placed a suspicious man outside that home 3 weeks before the abduction. The FBI has actively targeted that specific date for neighborhood footage collection. No arrest, no named suspect, no confirmed location. Hat down low, moving slowly, looking at her house. 3 weeks before she was gone. The neighbor's account does not identify the suspect, but it does something operationally significant. It extends the documented timeline of pre-attack surveillance. The Nest camera established 2 visits to that door. Aldine Meister has potentially established a third data point, street level before the camera visits, on a morning she can date with confidence. A third observation from a completely different vantage point places a suspicious individual in that same neighborhood across a documented span of weeks, not a single morning. Does the man Meister saw match the figure in the Nest camera images? Not confirmed, not denied. What the evidence shows is a documented pattern of pre-attack observation across multiple dates and multiple vantage points. What it does not yet show is whether those observations were made by one person or several, and whether Aldine Meister looked out her bathroom window at the same man who later knocked on Nancy Guthrie's door. The Nest camera has 2 visits on record. The FBI is targeting January 11th. A neighbor stood at her window on a morning she remembers because of her birthday. And somewhere, in a neighborhood security archive, in a forensic comparison of gait and clothing, in a conversation between the FBI and Aldine Meister that has not been publicly disclosed, there may be an answer to whether she saw the suspect before the suspect knew he was being watched. But suspicion alone proves nothing. What happened on the morning of January 11th on that street? And does the FBI already know who was walking slowly past that house with his hat pulled down low? Those 2 questions are where this investigation stands today. One may already have an answer inside the sealed federal case file. The other may be the thread that connects a 30-year resident's bathroom window to the Nest camera footage to the abduction of Nancy Guthrie on February 1st. Neither has been officially confirmed. Neither has been officially denied. What is documented is the pattern. A man on a street, a hat pulled low, a long look at a house, 3 weeks before the woman inside disappeared. The neighbor saw him. The FBI believes it matters. The investigation has not yet said why.